Please give James a really warm welcome with some whoops and claps.
There we go. Right. Hi. I was going to wait to the end of this talk, see how it went before I said I was in NHS Digital, but there you are. This talk is everything. Well, it's very confessional. So when I first got involved in Agile Delivery software, the key takeaway I took straight away was that just-in-time element that comes to certain aspects of it, and maybe actually that I was just appropriating that because it appealed to my chaotic life. But so when Roy got in touch and said, can I have some slides for this talk ages ago? It was like last week, wasn't it? I was appalled because that's not just in time. That's like way away. So
that's risk reduction.
I knocked out these slides and wrote some words, and then last night looked at them again, and then I turned to my poor bedraggled family and went, I've got a weird slide one. This isn't it, by the way. I've had to can it. And they looked quite reserved at me, and said, "What do you mean?" So well, it's a bit of a conceit. I thought what I'd do is I'd pretend I was at the wrong talk. And I thought I was at some talk doing like some sort of like midlife crisis like therapy group. And I thought I'd carry on for a bit and then suddenly realise where I was and then think, oh, sorry, and then start a different talk. Yeah, and I got exactly the same reaction from them, To quote Bill Hicks in like teaching a dog a card trick. So I changed track. And in reality, all this, if we're in the therapy mode, is because there's a procrastination about this subject matter. And so all this preamble now and rambling I'm doing now is because I've got a bit of a tension about this, about what does it really mean? And so we'll explore that. I'll actually look at my notes, shall I? I was lucky enough there to go to DocCon a couple of months ago, and I gave a forerunner of this talk there to a quite select audience, because it's this tension within me about this EA thing, this enterprise architecture. What is it? And partly it's not about what enterprise architecture is, although we'll bore you about that later, but it's about, is it us? Is it about our business domain? Are everyone else getting it right? And actually, where we are, there's something weird going on that we need to understand what's going elsewhere. So I've been I've been internalizing this quite a while, years, and eventually, in the safe, confines of being in Copenhagen, talked to some complete strangers and went, is it us? Is it you? And actually, I got a bit of a reassurance there. So I met some Dutch guys who sold like cloud services across Europe and stuff like that. And they went, no, I was going to do the accent then, but I've stopped myself. They said, no. It's lots of our clients we work across Europe. They're doing the same thing. There's something weird going on. There's like EA going on over here, and there's Agile Delivery going over here, and there's a bit of a fight, or not, or there's a bit like separation. So I was relieved, phew, it's not just us. As I say, okay, hello, me, bit of confession in part of my CV, because I've got a foot in each camp here. I come from a development background, really, but I ended up having jobs where designer or architect were kind of involved in that title. I've done delivery management too, Agile, Waterfall, sorry, I know which room we're in, and the chaos, actually, loads of my team were going to come and then they've all bailed on me, bastards. But they would accuse me of doing chaotic-driven development rather than anything else. But at some point in my career, I decided I wanted to do something bigger and better. And enterprise architecture sounded like just the job for me because, as I was starting to see, I've got a bit of a rampant ego. So this big scaling thing was something I really wanted to go for. So I changed jobs and I joined a small EA practice and I wrote loads of documents. And after a while, it felt a bit odd. I didn't know what was going on or why we were doing this, and nothing was happening. We were just a pile of documents to crawl up. So eventually, I just missed off. I missed being involved either directly or indirectly, batting people in the delivery of software. So I backed away. I missed that cadence, that release cycle. It just wasn't working for me. So after a couple of years, I slunk back home. But enterprise architecture is a bit like Pandora's box. Once you've opened it, you can't get that lid shut. It stays with you. And so even in my current role, because they know my career history, I'm involved now in EA governance. I might make some decisions about some abstract conversations. I'm going to really confess now, I might go to the odd design authority. So this is the context of my talk. It's for me to, talk about EA, why I think it is, preach to converted and say what I think Agile is, maybe a little less on that, and then see if they can play nicely together or not. So No, this is enterprise architecture. So another confession. I do love a clunky analogy, and here's a big one. So what we're seeing in front of us here is the observable universe. Do you all recognise that? So in each here, all these little dots, they're not stars, they're galaxies, and each of those galaxies, there's thousands and thousands of stars and star systems and planets and asteroids and UFOs and whatever else is going on there. And the clunky analogy is scale. I think when people go into enterprise architecture, they don't realise the scale by which it is operating. So if you're a development team and you're writing a bit of code and it's getting traction and maybe it's growing into a microservice, comes an application, go a bit further, multiple sprints, releases, tribes, whatever else you're going to throw at it, you've got a system. Well, that's one of those dots in enterprise architecture's world. And so enterprise architecture is completely different. So enough clunky diagrams. How about some words? Now, I don't want you to read them. They're just something I did a bit quick Googling and pulled something from the dark world of Gartner and worse, the TOGAF confession. I might be certified in that. And the takeaway from this is that IT, just not software, IT, delivery. These aren't getting a look in these descriptions. Stop looking. Look at me. Look at the words. And what the words are what the real coming out of here are words like strategy, business change, operating models, things that half of you are probably going, hold on, where am I in Agile Yorkshire still? Completely different things. We're talking about like fundamental underpinnings for large organisations and companies. Architecture here is about orchestrating, maybe perhaps vast numbers of systems to really transform the business of an enterprise, and it's not just about the IT at all. It's a massive, bigger change. It's a world of upfront consideration, abstract evaluation of ideas, massive, complex designs. It would be to denigrate it if it didn't have a cyclical nature to it, especially things like TOGAF. They've got the wheel. Those people have gone around that. But for people from an agile delivery perspective, the cadence of these cycles are just glacial in the world that you'd normally live in. Agile delivery, you say? Hey, now I know what room I'm in. So the last thing I'm going to do is start preaching or teaching you agile grandmothers how to suck eggs. But the key takeaway for me is it's all, as we've just heard in the last talk, it's all about the feedback loops. Oh God, I'm going to have to race. Paring down those business problems, prioritising them, and getting the most important stuff through. The most important value stuff through and release often. Do not second guess the future. To refactor, to expect to refactor, and to have, an emergent, evolving design that supports all this work. So is this just a problem of scale? If you're a startup and you've got all MacBook Pros and you've got Hoxton beards and beanbags, then hey, Agile works for you. And if you're in a different, conversely, if you've got like marble reception areas, golf-themed away days, then maybe that enterprise architecture is a fait accompli, and and then on top of that, if your startup's going to become the next digital disruptor for taking over the world, then offshore tax accounts, rampant misogyny, and enterprise architecture is just something that's going to happen to you. And what if you're doing it? And what if you're doing both all the time? What if you've got a community over here that's doing large-scale strategic planning, and then they're commissioning agile teams to crack on and deliver against a plan that these agile teams, in their DNA, know they shouldn't be following. They should be responding to change. And with these feedback loops, what if they're too long? So maybe this is a concept of a longer talk, and wow, yes, maybe it is. But to close, it is Christmas, and so we shouldn't be afraid. We should engage, communicate, and share from each community. We need to understand each other because there's insight, there's intellectual collateral, and there's a mandate for both sides to get things done. It's not simply a matter that one's right and the other is wrong. It's like life. It's more complicated than that. You got to be pragmatic. It could be functioning, but not perfect. But as we increase our understanding of each other and actually how we're actually achieving value, then good tidings can be had by all. Happy Christmas.